All right, I'm going to start as I know everybody's got busy days. Welcome, everyone. I want you to know this is actually going to be the last time we're going to hold this meeting in this exact format. Next meeting that will be a Zoom where I can actually get to see all of you, and I will actually be able to let you verbally ask a question. I want to be able to hear your voices, see your faces, and have interaction. One of the benefits that we've always had at our middle school meetings has been some open dialogue amongst the parents, whether it be about problems that they're facing with the internet at home, or just where the kids are going and hanging out, even though we're not doing an incredibly amount of hanging out these days. But was able to have a forum where parents could actually talk with other parents, and I want to get back to that. So our next meeting, next coffee will be in that format instead of this webinar format. Remind you that if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. Also, because I switched offices, I don't have my second monitor, so it's going to be a little more cumbersome for me to find those questions right now. So please put them in the Q&A, not in the chat, or I won't find them. So again, welcome. Last night, I want to thank, I know they're on this webinar, Allison Verderami and Naz Ford. We had a kind of sixth grade welcome party last night, snickerdoodle party. We had cookie trivia. Thank you for those great questions, Allison. And it was really a lot of fun. And, this is something that we've always done with our sixth graders. They do it kind of in what we call the entry points, kindergarten, sixth grade, and ninth grade. And they're usually physical parties somewhere. But of course, COVID has not allowed us to do that this year, at least start. So it was nice to see people's faces and meet some new parents. I did say last night, one of the, we always have to find silver linings in the things that we're dealing with right now. And to me, actually, carpool has been a silver lining. And probably not for you sitting in the long carpool line, but I think we're moving it fairly quickly these days. But we just used to let the inmates loose at the end of the day because they were going to sports, they were going other places, and they would just meet you outside. And now that I'm out there just about every day, I get to see parents who I would see some 3, 4, 5 times a year. I get to see a lot of them every day. So I actually am enjoying that. And none of you have tried to run me over or throw things at me, which is even better. I am going to start instituting, it's really kind of something I had done when I worked in Nashville, Nashville being a very family-oriented community. I was surprised. I actually had a dog that went to school with me every day there. And I was surprised that everybody came to pick up their children with dogs in the car. I was surprised to see how many parents are doing that in the afternoon. So on Fridays now, I'm going to be instituting Dog Treat Fridays. So if you bring your dog and you will let them have milk bones, I will give them a milk bone. Please make sure that they take the milk bone and not my fingers. But I like kids and dogs, adults. Yeah. So we've just finished the first quarter, and the kids have done really well. And there's always this misnomer, especially for families that are new to the middle school or newer to the Meadows school, that this is such a hard school and kids have to kill themselves to get a decent grade. And so at the end of each quarter, I like to do statistics, and the report cards will be coming out this week. Where we're actually not, I don't want to say I'm not blaming, but there's usually a little more complexities in the upper school and the way our computer program is set up that we can't send our report cards home without, and the middle school and the upper school have to send them home at the same time. And so we are ready, and Ms. Larson assured me it would be no later than tomorrow, that the upper school would be ready, possibly even today. So that's good news. And the good news also is most of the kids aren't going to be afraid to come home after their report cards. And I wanted to give you some statistics. And while I could be 1 or 2 numbers off, I'm not far off. So they're counting physical education. There are over 1,400 grades in middle school. If you remove physical education, which was pass-fail, which is pass-fail, then that left us at 1,263 grades. 913 of those were in the A range, A minus, somewhere between 90 and 100. That's 72% of the grades the students earned. And if you know my teachers, in our academic classes especially, your children are earning those grades. But let's also, there's a great book by Wendy Mogul called Blessings of a B minus, because I don't know where in society B's became bad grades, but B's are excellent grades. My parents would jump up and down if I would come home with a report card that was all A's and B's, believe me, when I was their age. So there are 272 B range grades, which is 22% of the grades, which means that between A and B's, from A to B minus, 94% of our grades fall into your kids fall into that range. There was a total of 68 C's. That's only 5% of the grades that were entered. D's is less than 1%. It's 0.7%, 9 D's out of those 1,263 grades. And there was only one F, which is actually 0.07% of the grades. So again, these kids are earning these grades. Now, I will tell you that second quarter is usually a little lower than first quarter. One is a lot of kids come out of the gate real hard, and as we all get a little complacent at times. So we want to keep them there, but it doesn't vary by a great number. Third quarter is usually the most difficult because it's actually the longest quarter, and that March, towards the end of that quarter, we have usually the longest streak where we don't have a day off, we don't have vacations. So that's usually the hardest. And in fourth quarter, they all try to save themselves if they've not done well before that. So, but you should be very, very proud of your children. I'm proud of them and how they're doing. They could have, had all horrible attitudes. This world stinks and everything else, and their attitudes and their behavior on a whole has been very, very good. While we are trying to make life normal as possible, and I've received one set of questions, and this may address a lot of them. Our decisions about how we are operating this division and all of our divisions, but are being made not monthly, not yearly, but right now they're being made almost daily. So some of the things that I know we want to move to, and we're taking a step forward, we may have to regroup and take a step back, and not because we've had any issues in the middle school with COVID, but for those of you who watch the news, the CDC changed guidelines last night. So my assumption is sometime today, Mr. Gregerson will be calling an administrative meeting to discuss how those guidelines will affect us, what we're doing now, and what we're going to do forward. For those who don't know, and it's going to sound like it's a little change, but it's actually a huge change, is the 15 minutes, if you're within 6 feet of somebody for 15 minutes consecutively was the rule, then you were exposed to that person. That meant that, kids who just weren't in the same cohort but had snacked together really weren't falling into that category. We were monitoring who was eating lunch. We're monitoring who eats lunch together. So in case we had a cohort, a situation where, one kid in one cohort had it and we know they ate lunch every day with this other student, well, that would have fallen in. Well, now they've changed it to 15 minutes in a 24-hour period, which really, those who have businesses, if people go to the water cooler a couple of times a day or the coffee, or to get to their break room and have several cups of coffee together during the day, that changes even the work environment. So it's something that Mr. Gregerson and our administrative team are going to have to talk about very soon. And again, this guideline was announced, I heard it last night. So we're going to have to decide what we can do to help. And why does it matter so much is right now, God forbid, we have a student who is positive. We're trying to limit the number of kids who would have to quarantine. It could be a cohort, it could be a grade. Depending on how we address this, we don't want to have to send home the whole middle school, or to be honest, we don't even want to send home a whole grade if we have to, if we have an infection. So please understand that this is a constantly moving target. So I know that when I go to the questions, I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm going to tell you what we know today, but it could change tomorrow. Mr. Orman is with us. I'm going to let him speak in a few minutes about the arts. But Mr. Orman and I, we had a meeting just 2 days ago that we approved some things, and this new thing may actually have to change what we approved. That was just 2 days ago. So please know it's a constant moving target. What can you do for your child during this time? First of all, there used to be a lot of school outlets. I can't wait for those school outlets to return, whether it was play rehearsal, whether it was sports practice, no matter what it was, those were outlets. We don't have the ability at this time because of COVID to create all of those. We're trying to create some of them. We're having Halloween, we're having Spirit Week next week. We're having the dress days. We're trying to make things as fun and normal as possible. Because those who do know me know I do like to have a fun environment. But we also have to provide, you're trusting that your child's here, and that we're doing our best to provide for their health and safety and welfare. And to be honest, I'm also being very cautious for my faculty. God forbid we have a case. The statistics will say the kids have are much more resilient to dealing with this disease than old people like me. So please understand that none of this is being done capriciously. Where we are, while politicians are continuously talking about how they're the ones using science, we truly are using science. There probably coming forward is going to be more opportunity for you to sign your child up. The school is looking at a different testing format for disease that, again, the more testing we do, as the school bell first period ends, the more testing that we do, the better we can keep control of this. So we sometimes don't understand if parents don't want to know, or if the testing they feel is too invasive. But there's new testing that's coming out that we're looking at very carefully, and we're experimenting with the upper school athletes at this time. And if it's there, I would hope that you would sign your children up, because the bigger pools we have, it seems that the testing and the mask wearing are the two things that are keeping us in the good shape that we've been in. So please, but you're going to have to find those outlets for your children when they don't have them here, at least just temporarily, until we can do more. And we're trying. Believe me, we're talking as a faculty every week about what are the things we can do safely in order to enhance the life of the students here at the school. Going back to the mundane, which is my normal life with the kids, and you'll probably hear this at every coffee, and I'm hoping at future coffees, parents can talk themselves together about what they've been trying to do at home. But we really need to try to keep, as parents, close tabs on the computer and the phone use. I know I've seen the 6th grade, which is our youngest group. I'm going to say, I don't want to use the word out of control, because that's, but the gaming and the texting is we don't allow it during the class time, but every opportunity that they can do it, they're doing it. And it's funny, because some of the times when you're in carpool, the reason why the kids aren't coming out, we're finding out, is because they're so busy playing on their phone, they're not listening to the teacher telling them that, your carpool's here. So we really, I urge you, I know it's a trust factor with your children, but I urge that you keep close tabs, especially on the texting and the websites the kids are accessing. They're spending more and more times because of this disease on their computers. And I'm not saying that's all bad, but there are a lot of things out there, for whatever reason, when I was a kid, we used to, emulate actors or or TV heroes or athletes. And now there's these all YouTube YouTube heroes that they're all watching. And since it's on TV, on a camera, they're doing some bizarre things. And our kids sometimes think it's funny to try to do these same actions. And some of them are dangerous. Some of them are just totally inappropriate. So please keep a hold out on those things. I've told you about the change of the meeting. Michael, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Orman. Again, I've really enjoyed these first couple of months of the year working with Mr. Orman. For those who don't know my deep, dark secret, even though I was the first athletic director in Meadows school history, my original, before I moved into athletics, I actually went into college as a theater major. Everybody told me I had a face for radio. So that was not going, actually was on the technical side of it more than the other side of it. But sorry, Mr. Orman, this is not a put down of theater, but I also decided I wanted to feed my family and eat myself. So that's why I went into education and athletics. So Mr. Orman.
Well, thank you. And again, I've enjoyed working with Mr. Siegel very much. I wanted to take a moment and give you an update of where we stand with the arts, especially the arts in the middle school. We have finished our first quarter of the carousel of middle school electives. So students were able to experience music and theater and visual arts, and depending on what grade they were in, film studies or life. So students, now that we moved into the second quarter, you may have been surprised about musical instruments coming into your house that you may not have been ready for, but now students are getting to transition into a different arts elective. This means that they will spend the next quarter with our faculty, our arts faculty, over in the CFA and over in the middle school. During this time, they're able to delve into the skills needed for each subject. I will tell you that the sixth grade orchestra was able to perform for their cohort last week, and just the pride that came from that performance over the course of those just couple weeks of having those instruments was something quite unique in my opinion. This small group of students that had many of whom who had never touched an instrument were able to play 5 different numbers, including some traditional pieces, working all the way up to Coldplay. I was quite proud of them, and Miss Larson and the rest of our arts faculty does an amazing job with them. That being said, we are going to continue this carousel model as the year goes by, and we will be evaluating how this, what the model does look like for next year. Currently, again, just like Mr. Siegel said, given the CDC guidelines, given the numbers of cases reported, we are going to err on this side of caution. We are going to still follow our policies and procedures in terms of COVID. So we are not in the arts loosening any sort of cross opportunities. We would love for there to be in-person performances. We understand that other schools and maybe other professional venues are starting to relax some of their restrictions. We are, again, going to err on the side of safety. We want to give the students these arts experiences in the safest manner as possible. And so what we're doing, since you're not able to see these performances and you're not able to experience what your children are getting to be part of, we will be rolling out a new arts web page that will be able to, you'll be able to access some more information about what their experiences are like. You will be able to download some of their videos. Our first video came out last night for the upper school band concert. It's on our YouTube page. And so with it, it was a recording of the band concert and then interwoven their experiences and their basically mindset of why they are in music. So those are some of the things that we're going to be doing pre-K through 12. All that to say, we're working hard to still provide a very rich arts experience in their daily lives, given all of the circumstances. That doesn't answer all the questions. So if you do have any questions moving forward, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. If you want to reach out to me personally, I'd be more than happy to have a phone call, email. If you want to have coffee, I would love to discuss arts in the terms of your children's lives and here at the Meadows. But other than that, again, I want to thank you for your partnership. I want to thank the middle school and Mr. Siegel for his work and his partnership in the arts for our middle schoolers. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orman. And I just also want to emphasize that, Mr. Gregerson had some plans to build certain departments up. If you go around Las Vegas and ask anybody, Meadows has always been known for its academics. We're there. We're not changing that. We're still going around and hiring the best professionals that we can find to teach in the class, and we're finding them nationally, not just here in Las Vegas. We went nationally to find both Mr. Orman and a couple of years ago, Mr. Gruber in athletics. And both of them are running their department. So one is, I want to urge any of you, if you have a concern, a question, an accolade about anything that's going on in either of those departments, please, I'm not going to ignore you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you to those people first. If it's an issue, I always tell parents, please, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's in the arts, whether it's in athletics, please go to the teachers first. They're your first line of question. If you're not happy with what the teacher has to say, then, or if it's more of an administrative issue in those areas, if it's academics, yes, that's the area in the middle school that I am, responsible for. If it's a curricular issue, I will sometimes even pull in department chairs to discuss that. But if it's arts or athletics, I'm going to forward it to Mr. Orman or to Mr. Gruber and say, and tell you I forwarded your email to them, and they're the first responders in those after the teachers, because they know their plans. I want to just emphasize a little also that Mr. Orman, was hired. This wasn't let's see what we can do during COVID thing. We were advertising for his position well before COVID was a thing. And we were very lucky to find Mr. Orman. He's also a parent in the lower school. And he comes with so much experience. For those of you who don't know, I'm sorry, I'm going to embarrass you again, Mr. Orman, my same old story. But such a small world that my daughter's physical roommate in college right now was a student of Mr. Orman's. I didn't know that, by the way. I had nothing to do. We knew that after Mr. Orman was here. And when I told her that he was at our school, she just told me how it was her favorite person at her previous school. So he comes very well recommended from lots of people. And obviously, for this young lady, he was an impact in her life. But he came in to not fire anybody, he came in to look at our program and how this program can be improved. And one of the reasons that I'm bringing that up is one of the questions that I've gotten, and I'm going to actually read it verbatim because I like it, is notwithstanding the surprise of a trumpet coming into our home, unexpectedly, I appreciated the rotating elective schedule and the exposure to other arts. Is the rotating elective schedule something you would consider for next year? And I know I'm going to say the answer to that is 100% yes. It may not be in 7th and 8th grade, but it's something I know Mr. Orman's considering for 6th graders. And Mr. Orman, you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, we really have, COVID aside, we have obviously had to make decisions in terms of the situation that we're in that we wouldn't normally. There are things that we have learned and experiences that we've had over the course of the past couple months that have shaped, I think, of how we are going to approach the coming years of education. Now, that's not to say we're going to throw everything out. For instance, I think there is a lot of value in giving students the opportunity to choose their arts electives. I also think that, especially in the younger grades, exposure, putting these opportunities in their laps that they maybe would only choose because their friends are going to them. I think giving them these opportunities and eliminating some of the peer pressure is a lot of value, especially in the lower grades, 6th grade in particular. So we will be evaluating what's best. You know, there is a lot of research in terms of arts exposure that shows that students benefit from having this carousel when they are younger. So we will be looking at what's best for them, but I think in 7th and 8th grade, we will be looking to move back to the choosing of the elective structure. That's not, you know, we'll see what happens over the course of the subsequent months, but we will be looking both ways.
And yeah, and again, to just further also that point is, I have to tell you that I have kids here at school, your children, who after the first quarter, who I guarantee you never would have signed up for theater. And they told me what a great time they had with Miss Carlson and the impact. There are kids who have never touched an instrument, who I know now want to keep pursuing their instrument, especially with the 6th graders, because they don't have that opportunity as much with all the different things that we offer in middle school. But I also will say that what Mr. Orman's plans, I think, are to expand. We want to expand our professional arts faculty into the lower school also. So for those of you who have younger children, so they'll have that impact even more down there. And also to understand that, you know, how does a kid know he never likes an instrument if they never touched one? Or how do they know, you know, that they really can be a very talented artist if they haven't explored anything more than, you know, gluing pieces of paper or the projects that are very, you know, teacher directed in the lower school appropriately. So again, we're excited about where our arts department is and where they're going. And also the experience, again, that Mr. Orman brings us, not just, by the way, in the arts, but in just the operation of a big school, a well-known private school. One other theater question that came in, so I know that Mr. Orman spent some time very recently talking with his colleague at Faith Lutheran, but why are schools like Faith Lutheran starting at least 50% in-person performances and other things, and why, you know, are we not, or why are we not willing? I'm going to answer the first part of it and then turn it over to Mr. Orman because he spoke with them. Is, to be honest, I'm not, and I don't think Mr. Gregerson is, and Mr. Orman can speak for himself me here. We're not willing to take the risk. And again, now with the CDC guidelines, so I'm going to just give you a quick scenario. I don't know anything about the show Mr. Orman does that Faith Lutheran is doing. Is if they have multiple grades, that means now that every student who's been on stage, especially with the new CDC guidelines, is in what you call the exposure category. So if one kid in that, and if they have 3 different grades represented in that show, and that those kids go back to different classes in every grade, every one of those classes that they've been in, every one of those kids has to be sent home and quarantined for 14 days pretty much. And so we're trying not to put ourselves into the situation. We're trying to limit exposures so we can not have to send large groups of kids home. God forbid we get into an exposure situation. Mr. Orman, do you want to?
I'll speak to that. You know, I want to preface this by saying I think I respect wholeheartedly all of the other independent schools and their programs around the nation. You know, I think everyone is making the best decisions that they can in terms of the context. And so every situation is unique, and every community is unique. And so the decisions that we're making are reflecting only the things that, you know, in terms of our programming. And so that being said, you know, I'll say it again, we're erring on the side of safety. We want to put students in situations that mitigate as much risk as possible. But we still want to give rich programming. We still want to give rich experiences. And what I think that we are doing, though, is finding creative, unique, and I would say modern ways of distributing content, of showcasing our work, so that we still can have these programs. That being said, we want to have theater. We want to have this performance art. So we're going to find ways to showcase it to the community in a safe manner. That means that we're not going to be having audiences a traditional form. So that means we're going to record them. They're going to be a little bit more film in terms of film and video and distributed, which I think is something that in conversations that I've had for years has been one of the frustrating points for theater goers, is because how does grandma in New York City get to see my child's work? Are we recording this? So we're trying to find that balance. So the answer to this is, right now, we are still not going to be moving forward with in-person performances. Depending on what the climate in the next couple months looks like, we will reevaluate. But at this time, we are still going to be filming things, distributing them to our community.
Thank you, Ms. Dorman. And also, again, I know what Ms. Ford just posted, that having it on film is also going to give it longevity versus the 3 performances, and because, by the way, most plays and musicals that we do, we can't record because of copyright infringement. So all we can do is take a couple of pictures. So that's one thing. But the other thing, by the way, is this has also had our theater department and our music department, everything, thinking a little bit out of the box. So there is a middle school performance being worked on right now. It will be filmed. And the greatest thing about it is something we can film and distribute because it's been written by our kids and our faculty and our teacher, which is amazing. And we have a professional theater person in there who has written her own musicals and says some of these pieces the kids have written are actually things that could be commercial. They're that good. So we now don't have kids just buying. We're not just buying a script. It doesn't say we're not going to ever go back to doing Fiddler on the Roof, but we're not. But now these kids are writing their own pieces. So and I know that one of the things, again, that Ms. Thorman wants to do is expand the offerings within the theater department and film and vocals and things like that. So again, we're going to keep going forward and exciting things. I also have got a question regarding that the upper school seems to have begun after school practices. Are we going to resume that in middle school? And pretty much the question is similar. We're going to keep airing. We were talking about this and about starting cohort-based practices. Since we all eat 8th grade at lunch, they can be with any group of 8th graders. We were saying, well, why can't we have an 8th grade volleyball practice? And we've been talking about that, and we have a plan to move forward. Last night's ruling may make us take a step back, to be honest. Part of our discussion, maybe we may have to go back to cohort lunching instead of grade level lunching, because again, we don't want to have to force an entire grade, and we may have to, or an entire middle school into quarantine, because again, that's not just, by the way, that's not just sending your child to stay home. Unless you're going to lock your child in a room and you just slide his food under the door or her food under the door, that means the family is going to probably be quarantining. From what I understand, and again, I've been blessed in the middle school where we haven't had to deal with any. Anything we've had at the school, to be honest, has been parent-based with the disease. And if a child has gotten it, it seems to have kids have stayed home during that quarantine period. And then if they've come down, it's been at home with the parent days or weeks after they've been at school. So understand that we're not just protecting the kids, we're protecting your family and that extension also. So the answer is yes. Again, as I said, we talk about sports, how we're going to do sports, how we do our academics, how we do lunch, how we do snack, how we do all these things daily, or if not daily, weekly. We have a meeting every week with what we call the student-facing leadership team, and we do that. So that's not an issue. We are constantly. So things can keep going forward. Things can go backwards. I can't tell you what it's going to be today because tomorrow could be a different guideline. So I apologize. I'm not trying to be evasive. And the last thing, again, also in the same vein, is what about their lockers? Can they ever use lockers this year? First of all, to be honest, the middle school teachers are enjoying not having lockers, to be honest. But not to say that we're doing away with lockers. But again, the lockers mean close contact for a long period of time because they go to them every period. And now with the 15-minute cumulative in a 24-hour period, it means that we're really putting kids at risk. So no, we're not going back to lockers soon. Now, they're talking about a possible vaccine coming out in November. Do I personally believe it? Probably not. But they're talking about November. Could there be a chance that our entire student body could be inoculated by the end of February? Yeah. I mean, we also could still be in the same situation next October. We don't know that yet. So we will make the decisions. If we feel it's safe, yeah, it's not, we'll open up, we'll give the kids everything we can give them in the cases of, in these situations that we can provide it safely. I'm just reading, so as these are coming up. Thank you for the accolade to Mr. Orman. I hope he gets a chance to read that. There was a question regarding study. I saw a study, after school study sessions. And the answer to that is yes. And I think that's another way to help your children. Our faculty in the middle school has always had a policy of staying late and working with kids. We haven't done away with that. The only thing that's changed is that your children can't just pop in whenever they feel like it, because teachers teach multiple grades. So if there's 1, 2, 3, or 5 students in the same grade that want to work with the math teacher after school, they just need to talk to her and say, hey, can we meet with you after school? We have students right now who are meeting with teachers even during their study halls if both they and the teacher are free. I want to make sure that that stays. Our teachers are willing to do that. This isn't in the middle school. It's not stay after school, we'll send you an extra bill. Our teachers do this. Now, it's not every teacher has the flexibility to a student to come in at 9 or 12 o'clock to their class and say, can I see you after school? No, we have teachers who have their own children and they have activities and things, but usually within 24 hours, they schedule a time to speak with the students. And that also goes for the remote students. If they're having issues, they need to email a teacher and set up a time. And I know our teachers are doing that regularly. So that's another way to help your children. At this age, they become a little more shy about doing that without urging from either us or parents, because they just don't, they feel it's an admission that they don't know something. And I try to always explain to them, it's admission that you care, that you didn't get it, you don't understand it, and you care enough that you want to get it. And that's also why they're here, because we want them to get it. You're not punished for asking the teacher, I don't understand how we did this math formula. Can we find time to go over it again? So that's not a punishment. I do want to apologize for not Mr. Orman. He's here doing a great job. Thank you, Mr. Orman. To Mr. Gruber, he had to leave town for something, so he's not on. And Ms. Hirsch and Ms. Whipple, Ms. Hirsch is usually on, our school counselor. She's not on because she's actually teaching right now a 10th grade class on regarding issues regarding suicide. In the middle school, your 7th and 8th graders have had those classes also. It's actually a state mandate now that those classes be conducted, and it's important. That's a statistic that prior to COVID was rising. I have not read too much about it recently, but I've heard through some other people that unfortunately due to COVID, possibly that number could still be even rising more. So it's an important thing. And she wanted me to send regards, and please know that you can contact Ms. Hirsch, Ms. Whipple, or Mr. Gruber, as well as Mr. Orman at any time. They're all very, very willing to talk with you and address any issues that you have. Does anybody else have any other questions? I do not see any on my board. I want to thank Ms. Smith. This is her first venture in creating webinars. We had one place, and since we're doing so many of them, each division needed the opportunity to be able to create their own. Of course, originally we couldn't have more than one at the same time in the school. Now each division can have them whenever needed. And I guess my last thing I have to say is that with the addition of Ms. Kennedy to the school, Ms. Larson and I always had a good relationship and wanting to work together and being able to work together with the middle and the upper school. And now Ms. Kennedy has joined that. And of course, Ms. Carlson in the beginning school has always had that too. And we have we're doing lots of planning to bring the arts, the athletics, and the academics all in line, not just 6 through 12, but through K through 12. And while we're dealing with the COVID and all the things that go along with that, we haven't stopped planning for our future, for the betterment of the school. Our goal is every time we meet, what do we need to do to get better? It's not ever going to be perfect. I wish I could say we were, but I do know we're darn good. And a couple of other quick questions popped up. Well, was a decision made regarding shorts after November 1st? Yes, Mr. Gregerson has asked us to stay for this year with the dress code that is designed for the school. It's something that he is willing to discuss and take up for next year. For those of you who don't know, that's always been anything regarding our uniform has sometimes been very controversial in our school, and not within the middle school, but in some other divisions. And it's just not with the issues that are going on right now, and not a fight that he can deal with at this moment, to be totally honest. So we're going to stay with that. The other thing was both the lower school and middle school had somewhat suspended, not postponed, full dress because of the mask wearing and the temperature and everything else. And we will be going back to our full dress after the first of the year. But also for those of you who are veterans in the middle school, the blazer is no longer a requirement in the middle school full dress. It's more like the lower school. So it would just be the shirt and tie, pants, and shoes on full dress days. I also have a parent who just wants me whose child is on a remote and just wants me to pass on the appreciation for the teachers. And I can't tell all of you how appreciative I am of my faculty. I really don't know. I know you hear about it and everything else. I don't know if anybody really, if you're not a teacher or your business isn't affected by it, how much more work is going into this. And the teachers are doing it. They're not asking for lesser loads. They're not asking for anything else. We're trying to do things at school to make their lives better. But it's not even double. It's exponential how much they're working. And I appreciate my faculty, and I'm glad that some of you and most of you I hope do also, because they truly are dedicated to your children, and they're dedicated to the Meadows School. So I'm going to end this. Again, you want to contact anybody here, don't hesitate. Thank you again to Ms. Smith, Mr. Orman for joining us today. And any other questions that you have, don't hesitate to send them to me. And have a great day, and let's keep everybody safe and healthy.